Hello citizens of our nation, RAWR here, and yes, oh my god, it is finally here. This is my most anticipated movie of the year, and I know that it is also the most anticipated movie of the year for a lot of you guys, Star Wars, The Last Jedi. We have been waiting 2 years. Yes, it has been 2 years since we last saw Luke and Rey on that island with her holding out that lightsaber to him, and it is so hard to believe that we are finally in the post-Last Jedi era. Really, when I saw The Force Awakens for the first time and that scene ended and the credits came up, I was like, oh, this 2-year wait is gonna be so long. But, like I said in my Force Awakens review, it still feels like it's only been just 2 days since I saw The Force Awakens, and now we are here at The Last Jedi. Now, I'm gonna let you guys know that at the time of this recording, I have seen the film 3 times, and I can firmly say that this is a much better film than The Force Awakens. In fact, after my first or second viewing of the film, I walked out of the theater thinking to myself, I like that more than the original trilogy. Now, having seen it 3 times now, my excitement has tempered down a little bit, but the fact that I was even having that conversation and those thoughts with myself, it shows you that this is a good film, and it's a great ride. The first thing I really want to talk about is the cast. The entire ensemble was great. There was not a single bad performance. Daisy Ridley returns as Rey, and she is just as lovable and charming as she was the first time around. This time around, she's more broken down, more emotional, and she's more in tune with her abilities. And I think that Ridley is versatile enough as an actress in order to be able to pull all of this off. I loved her in The Force Awakens, and she continues to impress me even more in The Last Jedi. How Daisy Ridley is able to handle herself and what she has accomplished in these 2 films is absolutely impeccable. You have to understand that prior to doing The Force Awakens, the only other acting work that Daisy Ridley has ever done was like student films, you know, with 16-year-olds, maybe for a total of just 2 weeks in her life. The Force Awakens was her first real movie, so you cannot understate the significance of what she has done in The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, and she was also quite good in Murder on the Orient Express if you've seen that. Adam Driver returns as Kylo Ren, and Kylo Ren continues to be the most unpredictable character in this new trilogy of Star Wars films. In The Force Awakens, we got a very conflicted, very torn Kylo Ren, and The Last Jedi ups that by 10. And I gotta say, I absolutely love the dynamic between Daisy Ridley and Adam Driver. These 2 actors work so well together, and you can tell that they were just playing off of one each other in all of their scenes. And furthermore, I bought the relationship between Rey and Kylo Ren, and that is great. It is no small feat given that one is the hero and one is the villain, and the screenwriters pulled this off well. Mark Hamill returns as Luke Skywalker, and this is a very different Luke from what we saw at the end of Return of the Jedi, and I understand that that might be off-putting for some people. But you have to understand that this is a very broken down Luke that has had some fucked up shit happen to him in the past 30 years, so he's in a very dark place at the beginning of this movie. In that sense, after you find out what exactly has happened, his character progression makes sense and feels very natural. Mark Hamill has been Luke Skywalker for 40 years now, and I gotta say, The Last Jedi was his best performance to date. There, I said it. The Return of the Jedi iteration of Luke Skywalker has always been my favorite, but The Last Jedi has overtaken that. The Last Jedi iteration of Luke Skywalker is now my new favorite. He was so powerful and enthralling in his performance in a way that was both entertaining but oddly kind of eerie at the same time. The film has been out for a couple days now, and I know that there has been some discussion as to the portrayal of Luke Skywalker, but for me, personally, it worked. Of course, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up Carrie Fisher as General Leia Organa. This was her last performance in a film before she tragically passed away last year. I'll admit it, I couldn't help but get choked up a little bit whenever Leia came on screen, and I gotta say, she saved the best performance for last. The film introduces new characters, Vice Admiral Amilyn Holdo, Rose Tico, and DJ, played by Laura Dern, Kelly Marie Tran, and Benicio del Toro respectively. All of these characters worked well for me, especially Holdo and Rose, and all of these actors are worthy additions to this cast. It's very hard to just jump into a franchise as big as this, right in the middle of it, and not only that, but to be able to stand out as well. And for me personally, these characters did that. I was thoroughly entertained by these new characters, and I liked how they developed throughout the course of the film. My only real complaint about the new characters, and trust me, this is something relatively small, I feel that the way that Benicio del Toro's character DJ was introduced was just a little too convenient. But again, that's something relatively minor in an otherwise grand film. When The Force Awakens came out, there was a lot of criticisms because some people found it to be too similar to A New Hope, some even going as far as calling it a remake. I personally have never agreed with that criticism. I'm not going to go into that right now, but I did go into that in my Force Awakens review, which went up on my channel about a week ago, so if you want to hear my thoughts on that, go check that video out. The Last Jedi is bound to receive some criticisms as well. After all, film is subjective. My opinion of the movie will be different from your opinion, and your opinion will be different from everyone else's opinion of the movie, and that's great. That being said, while The Force Awakens was criticized for essentially just being the same thing all over again, I don't think that there is any way possible that anyone could criticize The Last Jedi for that same reason. The Last Jedi is a very different, very risky, very ballsy Star Wars movie, unlike anything that we have ever seen. There's a line that Luke Skywalker says in the trailer that I think perfectly describes this film.
This is not going to go the way you think.
This is something that is very hard to talk about without going into spoilers. You see, I want to talk about stuff so badly, but I will not spoil it for you guys. What I will say is there were so many twists and turns throughout the entire course of the film, and there were several moments where the audience at whatever screening I was at collectively went like, that's really all I can say. This film took so many risks, and not all of them paid off, but most of them did. And in that regard, I feel that writer-director Rian Johnson should really be commended for his work on this film. Rian Johnson shows that he has a lot of balls for coming into this already established franchise and taking as many risks as he did. Whenever someone does that, even if not all of the risks pay off, they definitely score some points in my book. John Boyega returns as Finn, and while his performance is great, just like in the first one, I do feel like the actual character himself was toned down a little bit. In The Force Awakens, he was one of the more charismatic and funnier characters. He had so many great moments in The Force Awakens, like for example, when he went up to Phasma and he was like, "Yo, I'm the boss now, you hear that? I'm the boss." Or when he was talking to Han and he was like, "Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Why do you keep doing this?" And his interactions with BB-8 in The Force Awakens were priceless. And don't get me wrong, he still has a lot of good moments in The Last Jedi, but I don't feel that same charm. I don't feel he was as charismatic or as funny this time around. What I will say though is that his storyline with Rose Tico, as of now, it seems to me the most criticized thing about this film. I've seen the reactions, I've read the reviews, and I've spoken to several people about this film, and there are so many people who have absolutely hated that storyline. For me personally, I didn't really mind that portion of the film. Yes, I was so much more locked into the storylines involving Rey, Luke, Kylo Ren, General Leia, Poe Dameron, but I was I really didn't mind that part of the film. But while the Finn and Rose storyline didn't offer the best parts of the film, I was still thoroughly entertained by it. Captain Phasma returns, and Gwendolyn Christie does a really serviceable job portraying her, but I'm sorry to say that once again the character was completely wasted. It's just so disappointing because I read the recent Phasma novel that came out a few months ago. It's a really excellent novel. The way that they portrayed Phasma in the novel, besides anyone who can use the Force or who has a lightsaber, Phasma is the baddest, most toughest bitch in this whole entire galaxy. Like seriously, you do not want to fuck with Phasma. And obviously they put that novel out a few months before the release of this film just to get us more hyped up. I thought that by putting out this novel just a few months before The Last Jedi comes out in theaters, Lucasfilm was saying, alright guys, we've heard the criticism, we know that you guys think that Phasma was wasted, but here, take this novel and get excited because you guys are gonna love what we did with Phasma in The Last Jedi. No, absolutely not. Without going into spoilers, Phasma is just as wasted in this film as she was in The Force Awakens. After having seen the film 3 times, those are the only negatives that I can muster out of it. And those are 2 relatively minor things in a film that just gets so many things completely right. Overall, Star Wars The Last Jedi is an absolutely phenomenal film that I think fans around the world will be happy with. On my rating scale, Star Wars The Last Jedi gets a 9.5 out of 10. So, Star Wars The Last Jedi, have you guys seen it? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Or do you want to see it? Why or why not? Comment down below. Let me know. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe today for more content. Be on the lookout for my Last Jedi spoiler discussion video, which will hopefully be coming up within a week or so. Farewell, citizens of our nation. Catch you all next time.